I'm going to tell you how you can make filmmaking your full-time career. So the first thing you're going to need to do is get equipment. And you can do this one or two ways. You can do it by putting it all on a business credit card. Let's say you have an LLC, and no, this isn't financial advice at all. This is just me telling you what's possible. So by all means, don't do anything that I say, but you're going to need to buy a camera. You're going to need microphones. You're going to need lenses and a tripod. And those things, that adds up. Or you're going to just use the money that you have in your pocket and you're going to purchase what you're able to purchase with the amount of what your budget currently is. So let's talk about the first option. The first option, if you're using a credit card, you can get everything that you need, and you're going to have, most likely you're going to have a camera that's at the industry standard. So you're shooting at least 1080p, probably shoots in 4K. At a minimum, it needs to be shooting at 1080p. You're also going to be able to get yourself a microphone, which is going to be important. You're going to need external audio because you may need to mic somebody up. You may need to have it as a redundancy for backup audio. You're going to need extra batteries for your camera. You're going to need a tripod. Probably going to want to get yourself a gimbal. And those are just the benefits, is you'll be able to purchase those things. Now, the downside of that is that if this turns out being something that doesn't work out, you're going to have all that debt to pay back if you don't decide to make this a business. But if you do make it a business and you start growing your portfolio and getting clients, you'll start realizing that you're going to pay that back pretty quickly. It does take a little bit of time, don't get me wrong. It's not like you're just going to buy all that stuff and then you're going to immediately start getting clients. So the other option is that you just pay for what you have with the budget that you have, and you're not taking on any debt. And so the downside, or the benefits to that, is that you don't have to worry about paying anything back, like debt-wise, and you're only spending money on the things that you can afford to spend money on. The downside to that is that you may not have your funds, you may not be available to you, that you're gonna have enough money to be able to buy the industry standard camera or lenses that you're going to need. But I will say this, if you're gonna go that route, which is something that is totally okay, all you really need is a camera with a decent zoom lens, probably like a 24-70. You don't necessarily have to have a 24-70, but something that's got a good focal range like that, and then a tripod. And you're also going to need something for audio, but you can get like a lapel mic for like 20 bucks. But those are all the things. And you can also get, if you want to get a shotgun mic, you can get one of the Rode mics. I think they're like probably less than $100 now. But you could definitely go that route. It's a lot less expensive, and there's fewer risk. So you can just go one of those two ways. And they both have their pros and they both have their cons. But once you have all the gear that you need, now what you have to do you're not just gonna just get clients by just buying all this gear. So you have to, what I would recommend doing is start reaching out to people that you know first. So you can go in your phone and look at all your contacts and reach out to people you went to high school with, or friends or family, and ask if they know anyone that is looking to have video content done, or anything in the world of video. They could be anything. Maybe they want you to help them shoot a TikTok. You know, it doesn't matter. Anything that involves video, do it. Because what you're gonna do is you're gonna start to build your portfolio. And I haven't really gotten into, I kind of skipped over the editing software. You can still do a lot with free editing software, and I recommend using the free, like DaVinci Resolve, or you could probably get away with something like CapCut maybe. But it depends on what your budget is, because I primarily use Premiere Pro, but DaVinci Resolve is free. If you're looking for budget options whenever you're first getting started, by all means use DaVinci. But you're gonna start throwing those videos in editing software, and you're gonna start building that portfolio. And you're gonna have to work for free at first. You're gonna have to spend some of your time getting paid nothing to be able to have some sort of evidence of the service that you can provide. Now, the other part of that is you have to start developing skills. And the skills that you need to start to develop is you're gonna need to understand how to use a camera. And Alex Hormozi talks about this a lot, is paying down ignorance debt. And so if you have the budget to do so, I would definitely recommend either, you could definitely find all the things that you need on YouTube to be able to learn all the different camera things. But if you got yourself in some sort of a course, like Full-Time Filmmaker is a great course, you could get in that, and that would teach you everything that you needed to know. And that also gives you access to a community of people to where you can start networking. And that's other ways to where you can start generating more leads. But I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. But so basically what you're going to do is you're going to start reaching out to those people that you in your contacts, and you're eventually going to start to build this portfolio. And then the next thing that you can do is you can start going out to local businesses and just speaking with their director of marketing, like just walking in, introducing yourself and letting them know, just walk in, don't walk in and immediately start filming, but just introduce yourself and ask them. You can go during like different times of the day, or you can reach out to them in email, but you're definitely not going to want to go into a business whenever they're at peak business hours. For example, if you're like going into a restaurant and it's like 6 o'clock at night on the weekend, people are going to turn you away immediately. They're not going to have time because they're going to be so busy. So what you're going to want to do is go during those hours where they're not going to be as busy, and you're going to be able to have some sort of human interaction. If you don't have the time to go out to local businesses because you have to work a full-time job and you have to get paid, you don't have all this extra time, you can't go there during those hours that they would be available for you to shoot, you could consider getting a full-time job that would be able to, like an entry-level videographer job at like a university, because that would allow you the opportunity to be able to elevate your skills on someone else's dime, meaning they would pay for the gear, they would pay for all the opportunities that you would have coming up, right? So if you had different types of shoots, you'd have documentaries, you would have all these different styles of shoots. That would be a way of you just being able to get some experience, and you're still getting paid hourly and you're learning. And even if it was something that you had to take a pay cut for, meaning if you had to take a pay cut to pursue your passions, you're still getting a guaranteed paycheck. And the difference that offsets that, what that reduction in pay is, that the skills that you're acquiring along the way. Because what will happen is those skills are basically what fills in that gap. So that's another way that you could, another route that you could go in order to be able to start acquiring skills, start developing a portfolio, because everything that you make is something that it's something that you made. So it's something that you could showcase in your portfolio. And I would just double check legality things, some just contracts, check with your supervisors and stuff, and make sure you get everything in writing. But that's another option that you would have, is you could just have that instead of having to invest in all this different gear. And then you could maybe take that leap after, or once you decided like, okay, you're working that job, you saved up some money, now you could buy yourself a good camera that you know is going to provide the results that you're after, and so on and so forth. And a lot of times what you can do is you can go into places and get business cards, and you can reach out to people through email. I would recommend working for free still until you build that portfolio, and then it starts to come a certain point to where as you're building that portfolio, you're starting to narrow down what your niche is going to be. And I'm not saying that you have to pick at this point, but I recommend you start figuring it out, because that way you can start focusing on the things that are important to you and they're most fulfilling to you. Like some people like to do commercials, some like to do documentary style, some like to do corporate videos, or some people like to do weddings. And so you just start to figure out what you enjoy. But you're not going to probably pick it at first. You're not going to get it 100% correct. I'll say 100% correct. You're not going to get it right immediately. So I recommend just going out and doing all those things. Get your feet wet, figure out what those different things entail, and start getting some experience. And then what'll happen is you can start getting yourself in a position where you're confident with your gear, you're confident in your skills, you're starting to realize that this is something that you're starting to bring value to the marketplace. And what I would do is I would make sure that you have enough of a portfolio to where you have something to showcase your best work. I wouldn't have your portfolio just exist with a ton of different junk videos at this point. I would have that portfolio only consist of my best work. You could have like an editing reel. So before you can actually start getting leads, you need to have some sort of an offer. Let's say if you did like a Facebook ad and you offer your video services and someone reaches out to you and they're like, okay, well, what is your rate? What do you offer? What is your rate? And all these different things. What they're doing is that is an opportunity for you to tell the client and give them an overwhelming amount of value or reassure them that they're going to get an overwhelming amount of value. So you can offer them the video service, and then you can also add other things as bonuses on top of that. And then you're going to have some sort of a guarantee and things. And I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but your offer is extremely important because your offer is what will help the client decide on whether or not you are the best fit for what they're looking for. And once you have a good solid offer put together and you're starting to get results, like you're starting to convert clients into paying customers, then you know that that's an offer that you can kind of stick with. It's going to be something that you'll have to refine, but that's a way once you get more leads, you can start presenting that offer. Going back to acquiring leads is now you have to figure out like, okay, what are the ways that I can acquire leads? I can get leads through, if I use social media, but you could always take advantage of using social media. You could try to grow a YouTube channel, you could try to grow on Instagram or Twitter and try to grow a following there because that's a place that you could get leads for your video business as well. Or it could be something in the form of video editing. You don't even necessarily have to do videography or filmmaking, but it could be through video editing. So it's something else to consider. But then you could also do it through advertising. And so if you can make a Facebook ad, Google ad, you can make an ad for those different platforms. And I would definitely test a few before you just go out. Don't go spend a bunch of money on ads, especially when you haven't tested them. So maybe just test on one platform first and then see what your return on investment is. For example, whenever I was first starting to try to get clients, I would make a Facebook ad. And I would target people that were most likely to message me within, I think, a 30-mile radius, 50-mile radius or something like that. It was probably 50 to 100 actually. But I actually had people reach out to me, but in my advertisement, I included my portfolio. I showcased some of my work. And so that gave people, they reached out to me very quickly actually. And I turned a $20 Facebook ad into a few $100s. It's important to make sure that you are treating every single client like it's your first time ever doing a gig. And the reason I say that is because it gets really easy to start falling into this, it starts to become like, I don't know necessarily monotonous isn't the right word, but it starts to become something that's repetitive, and you don't want the client, you want to be able to deliver the highest quality service to the client as possible. You should be able to dial in settings and get the look that you're after. That's a given. That's why they hired you. You should be starting to think about brand at this point and focusing on customer service, customer satisfaction, and those things, because that can land you repeat clients and have you guaranteed you could start contracting throughout the years. Or the year rather, and you might find yourself in a situation where you start having more guaranteed income. Once you start taking on a lot more clients, you're going to probably want to reach out and network, and that goes back to what I was talking about with the full-time filmmaker community group. I just spent some time up in Atlanta a few weeks ago and networking with a few guys, some guys that were from my area, and are able to get me in contact with other people, and we're also able just to pass around information. So I flew out to Salt Lake City, Utah a few weeks ago as well, and I was able to reach out to some of the people in the full-time filmmaker group and ask them, they're from the Salt Lake City area, ask them like the must-see travel attraction things or the hidden gems that a lot of tourists aren't going to be at. And what I'm getting at is that you're going to want to start networking and start befriending people so you can start working in a crew, because when you work in a crew, it is so much easier than being a one-man band. I tell you from experience, it sucks having to monitor the camera, monitor audio, make sure that the lighting's good, having to do traffic control, and making sure that the person you're interviewing is delivering on your questions, and everything is just, it becomes a hot mess, and it's much harder than it has to be. When you start working with a crew, everything gets so much easier, and then your production quality just elevates because you don't have all that divided attention. You just got one person, one specific job, maybe two specific jobs, but everybody's got a smaller field of focus, and it makes it so much easier to, it just minimizes mistakes. And you have people that can give you a second opinion on things. So there's too many times I've been on set and just ask my buddy, like, what is your opinion on this composition? What do you think? Does he think this looks pretty good? And it's like, oh, no, look, they got this in the background. I'm like, I'm glad you said something, because I wouldn't have even, we were just about to roll with it. And that's just been really helpful, just working with a team. And, you can start figuring out what that team looks like based off of the needs that you have for each shoot. If you're a wedding videographer, maybe you just need a second shooter to capture a second angle. If you're doing documentary style, maybe you need somebody to manage lighting. The one thing to consider when you're working with a team, though, is that starts to cut into your profit, which is okay, but you just need to consider it whenever you're thinking about, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get all this help. People aren't always gonna work for free. Sometimes people will work for free for experience, but I always like to, if I have somebody coming out, I always like to pay them at least something. Make sure that you do your research, make sure that who you have coming on isn't just, make sure there's somebody reliable, because they will impact your brand in a way that, like, the quality of content or quality of video that you're going to provide to the client. So it's another thing to consider. But at this point, you could continue to do this as like an indie solo thing, or you could try to become your own production company or video agency. I see a lot of successful guys out there that have their own video agencies where you can contract people out all over the world, and just you need a videographer, and there's certain videographers that you're contracted within certain areas, and they go out and they shoot this thing, and then they send you the video, and you have your editors that edit the videos, and you're just basically managing the whole thing. It just really depends on what you want to do. Don't expect to make a whole lot of money, especially the first year. The first year is you just trying to figure everything out. Depends on your experience level, but I would tell you that just get your feet wet, get a lot of experience, because the first year you're going to just, don't try to avoid anything. Meaning that don't try to face your flaws, or get outside of your comfort zone. If you are, you can make a really good image, meaning that your cinematography is on point. Composition looks good, lighting looks good, you're very confident in that, but you are a lousy video editor, focus on improving your video editing. Or vice versa, if you're good at video editor but you're a pretty lousy camera guy, then focus on improving your camera skills. But if you want to know more about what I would do, because I do photography as well, if you want to learn more about photography things, it's all similar, but I did make a full video on that. You can check it out right here, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for sticking around.